Hey, everybody, this is Michael Alago, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, soon to be coming back to downtown Davenport, Iowa, I believe in July, once again. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Michael Alago, Part 2.
Michael Alago, Part 2. We go into depth about his autobiography.
Yeah, I am Michael Alago.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out Michael Alago, Who the Fuck's That Guy?
Yeah.
And I Am Michael Alago, the book, you need to check it out. Very entertaining.
Yeah.
Let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Hey, Michael, welcome back to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to reintroduce you to my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Michael,
Hi,
it
Jeff.
is great to talk to you again.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Well, your
we're excited.
episode number 1 did so well for us. We had to have you back on for our part 2. And, just for a quick review, we discussed your life and sobriety, your HIV recovery, relationship with your Aunt Ida, friendship with John Lydon, and the signing of Metallica. And I tell you what, those stories brought on a lot of listeners, so we were so excited to have you back.
Well, that sounds like a good part 1.
It was a fantastic part 1. So,
good.
Last time that you were on, we briefly discussed your time with Elektra, obviously signing Metallica and Geffen Records, but both labels were giants in the industry back in the 80s and 90s. Can we talk a little bit more about your time on both labels, and can you kind of compare and contrast working with Elektra and Geffen?
Sure. Both of them were extraordinary labels. When I was at Elektra, I did sign Metallica. When I was at Geffen, I signed White Zombie. Both huge artists.
Exactly.
I felt very privileged to have worked at both those labels because they were both very special in their own way. They both they were both major labels distributed by majors. Elektra was distributed by Time Warner, and early on, Geffen was distributed through Universal. But they operated like boutique labels. Each label just didn't sign everything. When Bob Krasnow, the chairman of Elektra, got there in, 83, and he started building the roster, and I was the first A&R person that he hired there, he signs Anita Baker. Some other A&R person signed Motley Crue. I signed Metallica. We saw that The Cure were not doing well on Sire Records. So Bob Krasnow had a big talk with Seymour Stein, the head of Sire, and I don't know, I think we made a trade. I don't remember what the trade was, but we wound up with The Cure. And they wound up doing their best records for Elektra. You know, the same thing with Geffen. You know, at some point, Geffen had everybody on the label from White Zombie to Nirvana, Beck, Sonic Youth, Cher, Whitesnake, Guns N' Roses, and all of those artists were special. They, you know, both labels didn't follow the leader. They were the leaders. And, you know, there are labels back in the day we used to make fun of and say, you know, that label will sign anything that sticks to the wall, you know?
Yeah.
And it's true. Like, people just wanted to fill up their rosters. They didn't care if they were, well, I don't know if they cared or not, if they were like A-list type artists. But, you know, that's all we cared about. And it's almost in a very snobbish way. Both Elektra and Geffen were extraordinary labels. You know, everyone was A+ on both those labels.
Yeah.
But like I said, they were major labels, operated like a boutique label. They were no nonsense. And, you know, even when David Geffen started Geffen Records, I believe around 1980, I'm not sure. Let me just think about this. Yeah, had to be about 1980 because his first three artists was John Lennon, Donna Summer, and Elton John. You know, that's like the cream of the crop right there.
Yeah.
And then once the label started getting going in the 80s, I got there in the 90s, and it was in full bloom. I mean, everything was happening there, you know? So it was I felt privileged and extraordinary that I didn't have to work at any hack label. But, you know, they liked me, I liked them, and I did great work for both of those record companies.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Let's change gears and discuss your book, I Am Michael Alago.
Sure.
What approach did you take when trying to write an autobiography? Because you have to figure out, like, okay, what's at the utmost importance, and what's going to gravitate the reader, and what do you leave off, and do you kind of feel bad about leaving certain parts out? How did it work for you?
Oh, sure. Well, I felt very lucky when I got a call from a little book company called Backbeat Books. You know, they saw the documentary, and they wanted to know if I had any more stories to tell. And I thought, do I have any more stories to tell? Of course I do. So I was, I felt not lucky, but I was grateful that somebody wanted to have me work on a book. I am a bit of a scatterbrain, and if I didn't document my whole life, there wouldn't have been a book. Yeah. And by that I mean, as a young person, I kept journals all the time. At a very early age, all those journals, all they were, it wasn't about like poetry or creative writing or anything. The journals at an early age were lists. You know, Friday night I'm going to see the Dead Boys and the Damned at CBGB. Oh, I have a ticket for Bette Midler at the Copa at midnight. You know, it was just lists of things that I was going out to do. So that was great that I had saved that. And then later on, it did become creative writing. It did become poetry sometimes, but it was still in some way just lists of everything that I did in my life. And because I have this bit of a scatterbrain, probably from all the drink and the drugs, and that my entire brain never returned, how I got through the book, I had a co-writer. Her name is Laura Davis Chanin, and I just opened all of my diaries, all of my journals, and I just went over everything. And we just picked what we thought were all the high points of my life, and poof, there came the book. I mean, so I knew that it would be a little different than the film. We could get more in depth with a book. So we talked about growing up in Brooklyn and what that was like. We talked about my 25 years as an A&R executive and artist that I worked with. You know, we talked about Obviously, the biggest group that I ever signed and one of the biggest bands in the world, Metallica, because we knew people would want to read about that. We talked about addiction and recovery because tens of thousands, probably millions of people can relate to addiction and recovery and living a clean and sober life. Now, all of that, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, would have been a cliche if I died. But thank God I didn't die. So it just, it makes people want to gravitate towards the book and hear my stories. And I had lots of stories in the book, from Metallica to going to a Lynyrd Skynyrd rehearsal with the concert promoter, the great Bill Graham. I talked about having HIV in the 90s and full-blown AIDS when there was no medication whatsoever. And I lived. Thank God, 14 years ago, I decided to stop drinking and drugging, or else I wouldn't have been here. But it's an exciting book. It's a wild ride of an extraordinary life that I had. You can't plan a life, but I knew from the get-go I was going to be in the music business, and I had no plan B. So when I opened up all these journals, I just thought, wow, there are so many great stories to tell. So I tell all the stories, or most of them, in the book. I don't really think I left out stuff, and if I did, maybe I just didn't think it was colorful enough or worthy enough. But it's exciting, and the book is a lot of just short chapters so that people can just get through it. And it's a wild ride, and I think everybody who has purchased the book have come back to me and just say, wow, dude, I can't believe you're alive. And I am. And, I think they're surprised, for somebody drinking, drugging, having full-blown AIDS. And during that time period when I wasn't, really sick, I was still drinking. And, I made many trips to the emergency room in the hospitals, hoping that my heart wasn't going to stop from all the cocaine. And, I was meant to be here. I wasn't meant to die. I was meant to, work in music. I was meant to share my life with people so that if people are out there struggling, what happens when you're struggling out there and you ask for help, you get the help that you need if you're serious about it. So, that's why I'm still here. I'm here to love, and I'm here to be of service to people. And, just says a whole bunch.
Oh, well said. Very well said. Jeff, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think last time we talked to you, had just done a book signing, and then the whole world shut down. So have you been able to get back out there and do any promotions for your book?
Well, it's a good question. My book came out, I think March 25th. But I had planned a book party on Friday, March 6th, at a little club called the Bowery Electric on the Bowery in the East Village. And I got, a box of, 100 books or so in advance so that we could have this party. I sold out the 100 books that night. It was really so much fun. The book kept getting pushed back. It wasn't ready. I wasn't happy with the cover, blah, blah, blah. So that Friday night, we were hearing rumblings of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But it was just that night, I think it was still rumblings, Friday, March 6th. And, the event was sold out, which was maybe just 120 plus people, but it was so much fun. But little did we know that really was the last night that all of us were getting to go out.
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple days, that Thursday, which, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it must have been March 12th, when all of a sudden on the news, we were hearing about this pandemic. We were hearing that, specific to New York City, that Broadway, Times Square, the theater was closing down. And I don't know, about maybe that day or a couple of days later, we were all in lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's very, very strange for for being forced into lockdown. But it was very, very scary in the very beginning because we were all wondering, what is this pandemic? Did it really come from China? Did it come out of a laboratory? Like where did it all come from?
Right.
But it was beginning to kill people left and right. Now, I know I just went off on a tangent, but what was your question?
I was just curious if you've been able to have any book signings recently.
Oh, right. Okay. Woo, back on the beam here. So, I think what happens very specifically to artists, too, it was very troubling because concerts were canceled. My little book tour that I was going to go on, I had to cancel, or they canceled me. So I had to think quick. And at some point, my publishing company hired Adrenaline PR to do publicity and marketing for the book. I had 3 months of them working for me. And so I did everything online, all the podcasts, all the Q&As, all the Zoom interviews. Thank God for technology.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't have that, where would I have been?
Exactly.
So I sold a small couple thousand books during this past year. But no, I haven't gone on the road or anything. It's all been, like I just said, everything has been online. Whether it was Rob Flynn from Machine Head's podcast, which was a Zoom that we did for 2 hours, to I don't know, just all different types of publications. Whether they were rock and roll, whether they were gay oriented, whether they were health oriented. So it was everything from Rock Hard in Germany to Psychology Today. I mean, I know how to market and promote myself. So I didn't like the fact that we all had to stay indoors, but there was a friggin' pandemic going on out there that was scaring everyone. So, I just pulled myself up by the bootstraps, as they say, and I did everything online.
Yeah,
cool.
Awesome.
We spoke briefly about your photography in the last episode. It was more kind of photography driven during the pandemic. You were doing photography with people with face masks on. But can you talk a little bit about more about photography pre and post COVID-19?
Oh, sure. So, I love pictures. I love the stories that photographs tell.
Yeah, definitely.
I am attracted to people with tattoos because, like some people go, oh, that's like cliche. But you know what? I find really interesting people. I want to know the stories behind what makes them tick, why that certain tattoo. I like people who are not models. I don't shoot models. I find, shooting models from catalogs and stuff or from agencies, just becomes a bit homogenized for me.
Oh, yeah.
I like people who look down and dirty and have an interesting look. Most of my photography have all been male-oriented. My books were all about male erotica. And, I did 3 books on that. And I just felt like, okay, I did that. Let me just keep moving on. So we can fast forward a little bit to right now. Being stuck in the apartment was not fun. I watched too much MSNBC. I screamed and hollered at the television, standing in front of it for months on end. And then I had to stop because it's really kind of unhealthy to have your brain be filled with all that information morning, noon, and night when it's ever changing to begin with. And, I didn't want to be in a panic all that time. So, I watched a lot of black and white movies that I love on TCM, Channel Classic Movies. But I just also felt like something was missing. And the missing part was being forced at home, I wasn't outside taking pictures. I love taking pictures outdoors. I love taking pictures in natural light. And recently I put away my cameras, and all I do is I shoot photographs on my iPhone with an application called Hipstamatic. And I found a faux film that I love on this application. It's all black and white. I love that everything is in a square. I love the look of a square. So I just but now we're about 6 or 8 months into the pandemic, and I just felt like I have to go out. I went out with my face covering. I was careful. Sometimes when I just wanted to take a walk along the West Side Highway, I would walk by myself. But all of a sudden I thought, well, you know what? It is about 8 months into all of this, and I know little by little I see people going outside. So I asked friends of mine, I said, I'm starting a series of pictures called Art in the Time of Coronavirus. Do you want to pose for the pictures? And, my friends said yes. So I must have done about 15 or so sessions. And, I'm hoping that, my next book, which would be my 4th book, will be portraits, again, black and white. Nothing so erotic about them, but they all are strong, because I feel like I always get the best out of people when I know what I want from the picture. And I'm not sure yet whether my next book is just going to be all of those portraits, or are they going to be mixed with all my rock and roll portraits from backstage, whether they're Mina from Life of Agony to Billy from Biohazard, Al Jorgensen from Ministry, Doyle from the Misfits. I mean, I have all these beautiful photographs, and I love taking pictures of flowers. Flowers don't talk back to you. And I just love flowers. I love how flowers look in pictures. So I might throw some of those flowers in there to just kind of divide up the book, portraits and flowers. So that's what I've been doing now, and which kind of brings us up to present day, being at home most of the time, 12, 13 months now, but, not really being afraid of going out now.
Right. Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question or if I went off too much on a tangent here, but that's just how the brain operates.
Sure. Kind of related to that topic. Recently on Facebook, I saw you posted a picture of your dad's lighter, Anthony Alago, Airman of the Month, August 1955. Can you talk a little bit about that lighter and how the sentimental value to you?
Yeah, well, I didn't know it existed. My stepmom, Gloria, my dad's second wife, was just going through boxes in her own home, and she wanted to know if I wanted my dad's birth certificate and Social Security card and his District 65 Municipal Workers Union card, and she found this lighter, which, let me see. I have it in my hand right now.
Oh, nice.
And it's really very cool. And like you just mentioned, it says, Anthony Alago, Airman of the Month, August 1955, 1475 flight, Service Squadron. And I guess it was like a little a gift that the Air Force gave him. And Gloria just wanted to know if I wanted it, and I did. And it's just a nice keepsake that I could stick in my pocket or put it anywhere in my house, and it just helps me remember my dad.
Oh, so cool. Yeah. A few weeks ago, you attended the Black and Blue Bowl. It was New York City's first free rock event, punk rock event, that is.
Sure.
For our listeners, can you explain the Black and Blue Bowl? Because, we're Midwesterners. We've never been to it before.
Oh, sure. Drew Stone, and we call him Cousin Joe, and Joe Camerata have a company. Well, it's mostly Joe, but Drew participates in setting up the whole thing as well, called Black and Blue Bowl. It happens every year, I think, and I can't really speak for them, but I think they wanted to have the bowl again this year because here we all were in quarantine, which is unusual to begin with, and it's 13 months later, and everybody was getting hungry for music, live music. And, they got all the proper permits for the outdoor event at Tompkins Square Park in the East Village, and the event was put on. Madball performed, Murphy's Law performed, and of course, John Joseph from the Cro-Mags band, Blood Clot. That's the reason that I went, because, John is near and dear to me. We're friends 30 years, and I just wanted to go out and hear music again. And so did almost 3,000 other people who have been locked up in their homes, just wanting to get out and socialize and go see live music.
Oh, so cool. And as far as it went, did you have any worries about the vaccinated upon the non-vaccinated? Were people wearing masks? How did it work?
Sure. I would say, the mask situation was 50-50. A lot of people had masks. A lot of people did not. We were outdoors, so we were not in an enclosed area. By that time, which was only about 2 weeks ago, I was already what they call fully vaccinated. And for me, everybody's going to handle this vaccination thing differently. For me, I've been vaccinated my whole life, so I have no beef with the vaccine. I felt personally that it gave me a sense of relief that when I hear the CDC and the NIH talk about when one is fully vaccinated, they say you have a 95% chance of not catching COVID. Well, that for me personally, that was a relief. And so, I went to the event. For John's set, Blood Clot, I was on the stage right. I took off my mask because I was out in the open air. And, when you think about it, this isn't a virus that kills you from the open air. If it was, we'd all be dead already. So I understand the importance of face coverings. But you know what? I was on the stage. I wasn't next really to anybody. The musicians were center stage. And, it was a beautiful day and the air was fresh. And I went. And it was a little nerve-wracking for a moment, because this is our first event during this pandemic, but there are vaccines. Most people I know are getting the vaccines, and, the vaccine, I believe, protects me from giving you anything, and vice versa.
Yep. Yeah.
So it was just very, very exciting. So, from the stage, when I saw lots of people and people saw me, they were like, "Oh, can we take a picture with you? We love your movie. Can you sign this for us? Where can we get your book?" So I jumped off the side of the stage and I went into the crowd, and when I took pictures with people, I said a prayer, I took off my mask, and I took a picture with them. One crazy kid, a British kid, drunk out of his mind, lost his 2 front teeth somewhere, stuck his fucking tongue in my ear, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. I Purelled that thing super fast. But you know what? Everybody had to just relax a bit. I think everybody felt relief that we could go and hear and see live music. Now, that doesn't mean come Monday, I went back to the doctor to get one of those swab tests again because I am a little neurotic about this sometimes. And of course, because I was fully vaccinated, the test again came back negative. So, at some point, I think, we are. Well, let me backtrack. Sorry about that. No, I think at some point, because we've heard the president say July 1st, mostly everyone is going to be vaccinated. So I'd like to think those numbers of people, catching COVID are going to be so much less. And, we're not meant to live like in solitary confinement, really. No. It was necessary for this year to follow what the health organizations were saying. But like I said, 13 months later, vaccinations are in full effect. There was a New York event, and it was incredible.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Jeff, you want to take the next one?
So let's talk a little bit about the state of music for new artists. What is the coming on the horizons for? Do you see a day when people can still get into the music business, or is there hope for future artists?
Well, I find everything is cyclical, and the music business changes all the time. Well, right now, record companies are operating. They didn't shut down. I think everybody worked from home. I think new artists wanting to get signed are just as hard now as it was years ago. Except now I find personally the frustration is that, record companies look at new artists' numbers. Yeah. And by that I mean they're looking to see what their Instagram number looks like, what their Facebook, all the social media, which kind of pisses me off because numbers do not tell you how talented someone is. And for me, although I don't officially work at record companies anymore, I did for 25 years, I feel it's up to the A&R department, the A&R person who signs the new artist to develop those numbers. Hello, artist development, I feel, is a thing. Back in the day, if I signed an artist, you are developing that artist so that when you sell 50,000 records on the first album, maybe you're going to double that the next time and so on. And if you decide you're sticking with an artist, hopefully by then they're going to have a gold or a platinum record. Now when people see that artists' numbers are low, they don't look at them. They don't look to sign them. But, there's only so much that an independent young band can do for themselves without the help of proper organizations, whether it's major labels or independent labels with great distribution. And then there are artists who want to stay independent and want to just do it DIY, do it themselves. So it's very tricky. And, coming out of a pandemic now, I haven't really kept up with, who's getting signed. But, there are always artists getting signed. That's how labels, make their living. From artists who are established, who are already selling records on the label, to new artists. Like I said, I find it, I don't like the way it's done these days, based on numbers. But, I don't work for those record companies anymore. So, people know that I'm out there. I'm always on social media. So when young artists see that I'm out there, I give it to them. I always tell them, listen, I'm probably the worst person to send music to because I'm going to tell you, is it good? Is it bad? Or is it great? I don't deal with good bands. Good is a dime a dozen. I like things personally that are great.
Yeah.
Great to me are artists who have charisma, artists who tell great stories. For instance, about 2 years ago, my cousin Julie in Florida told me that her neighbor's son had a band. Like, I haven't heard that for 30-odd years.
Yeah.
But I'm open-minded about these things. It was my cousin that told me, so I wasn't going to say no to her. She sends me a little independent CD by a band from South Florida called Ether. They're now called Ether Coven. And the CD blew my mind. The CD was heavy. It was dark. I just loved what was going on in the music. It wasn't radio friendly at all. It had elements of Crowbar, I Hate God, Swans. All of that stuff is up my alley. All that darkness, all that atmosphere. And for me, I never cared if bands were going to get on the radio or not. Because there's always ways to market and promote new artists. Anyway, I heard their CD, and it was called Nothing Is Left for Me Here. I went down to South Florida to see them. I loved it, and I wound up getting them signed I got them signed to Century Media, and they made a record for Century Media, and we don't know if we're going to be on that label anymore. It basically wound up being a one-off, but that's okay because we persevere, and I'm going to help them get their next record deal again. But for me, in my brain, they are a great band, and I like to work with artists who are that unique. And, if you want to backtrack, unique to me is Johnny Rotten. Unique to me is Metallica. Mm-hmm. Unique and charismatic is Rob Zombie. And, I'm glad that I have two good ears or two great ears that have helped me to say and do, I'm going to sign you because I think you're great. So I think that's a little update about what I think about new artists, how they're getting signed. I may not love how they're getting signed, but like I said, I don't actively work in the music business anymore. I work independently, and I'm always here to help new artists if I think that they're great.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're really going to switch gears now. We're going to talk about Jeff and I, and probably one of your favorite subjects, collecting vinyl.
Yeah.
So what have you been doing lately as far as the collecting going?
Don't ask. Well, it's a funny and a not so funny thing as I now sit on my floor in my living room going through new vinyl. I had a huge record collection. But here we go. When I was an active alcoholic and a drug addict, I sold my entire record collection.
Oh, yeah.
Don't ask.
Yeah.
So, at some point, I don't know now, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, I started purchasing vinyl again. All types of vinyl. I love how vinyl sounds. When you think about CDs and how compressed they sound, not the worst thing in the world, but if you want to make a comparison, I feel that vinyl has this big, beautiful, warm sound to it. So it's for me, it's a very different experience hearing, Danzig on vinyl and Danzig on CD. Both are excellent, but there's different kind of magic in each format. And recently, I've gone vinyl crazy. I just got the new Alan Vega record, Mutator. I got the solo piano record by Nick Cave called Idiot Prayer. I love Lil' Kim, the hip-hop artist. She has a new album out called The Number 9. It's filthy, dirty, and obscene, and I love it. My girl, Lana Del Rey, put out a new record out called Chemtrails Over the Country Club. I just picked that up. And there's a singer that I have loved since I was young. He's mostly from the 1950s, and his name was Johnny Ray. And so I started going on eBay and finding all the Johnny Ray records that I could find. So, that's what I've been doing. I've been purchasing old vinyl that I had already. I had read an article about a band from Russia called Molchat Doma, Molchat, new word Doma, Doma. So I purchased all 3 of their albums on Sacred Bones Records, an independent label. They don't sing in English. It's all Russian. Cool. But you know what? It sounds like The Cure meets Joy Division. And cool. I love that sound. So I don't know. I purchased those records, and they're interesting to listen to. There's a young band called Plague Years out of Michigan, and I just got their independent release, and it's fabulous, and it's dark and heavy and not radio friendly, and I don't care. So I've just been listening to lots and lots of vinyl from, that band Fucked Up from Canada to an old record that I've always loved that's on Touch and Go Records by De Kreutzen from Milwaukee.
Yes.
They made a record called Octoberfile in the 80s, and it's just as good now as it was then. So I have a broad palette of listening, but I'm crazy about vinyl. I love holding it in my hand. I love, hopefully, when artists and or record companies spend money on vinyl, maybe it has a gatefold sleeve with beautiful pictures. Maybe when you pull out the sleeve that contains the actual vinyl, there are lyrics there.
Yes.
Or an interesting story. I want to know who produced it, who engineered it, where they recorded the record, what label put the record out, to see if whatever label that is, do they have like-minded artists that I may want to follow. So, lately I haven't even paid attention to buying CDs recently. I just want everything on vinyl again. And like I said, whether it's male and female singer-songwriters from the 50s that I love, to, dark metal. I have a wide range of things that I love. So like maybe in the morning I'm listening to Tony Bennett, but when I'm getting ready to go out at night, I want to throw on, Rain and Blood by Slayer, and or CD. But yeah, vinyl is just a beautiful thing.
It is. It truly is. Jeff, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
I got one last question for you.
Sure.
And then we're going to let you go for the night. All right, so let's briefly discuss new beginnings after COVID-19. I know my wife and I, we're going to make a conscious effort to travel more. I mean, we would travel once a year, but we're going to try to do a little bit more extensively.
Nice.
We're kind of empty nesters now.
Yeah,
so
we're jonesing to get out.
Yeah. So for you, what's your goal, your COVID-19, post-COVID-19 goal?
Well, I'll leave the COVID-19 goal part out of there.
Post-COVID-19 goal, I should say.
Sure. Last year, there was that phrase, in 2021, the new normal. I thought that was the worst phrase that I ever heard. What does that mean, the new normal? I didn't get it, didn't understand it. So for me, I like to think that the world is going to have some new beginnings. Because whether we know it or not, whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not, nothing's going to go back to exactly how it was.
Right.
So I think we're going to learn a lot about ourselves, all aspects of ourselves. But, hopefully music is going to come back in a big way because, everyone's itching to go out, whether you're playing 18,000 seaters at Madison Square Garden or if you're playing 300, 500 seaters nightclub, 500-seat nightclubs. So I'd like to just think that art perhaps is going to be more political and reflective of the times. I'd like to think that artists are going to take even more chances with their music. I'm dying to travel, but you know what? I still have that thing. Here we are. What are we in? May 2021. I don't know if I'm going to get on an airplane yet. I don't know if I'm going to take a 5-hour Amtrak train ride to see my sister, although I really want to. So, where I didn't think twice about going to an outdoor event in New York, I still feel a little funny about getting on an enclosed space for hours like a train or a plane. Yeah. But you know what? I see and hear every day that the COVID numbers are going down. I hear that more and more people are getting vaccinated. I'd like to think people are paying attention and will, as per the president's request, that everyone get vaccinated, that everyone's going to be vaccinated by July the 1st. So, the time already is going by so fast. Last year when everyone said, everything's going to change in 2021, well, not everything changed, but at least we got this vaccine to help everything along. So I'm thinking, I hope concerts come back soon. I hope more restaurants are going to open up. I hope the small mom and pop shops, not too many of them, closed. I don't know what to say other than that. I'm going to try not to have too much fear in the next month or two about perhaps getting on an airplane. I want to go to Venice Beach. I want to visit the West Coast and see all of my friends. I want to go back to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'd love to go back to London and Paris and Germany. Like in September of 2019, which was only a few months before the pandemic, I spent 5 days in London, 5 days in Paris, and 5 days in Berlin. And that was like the last time I did any excessive traveling. And it was fabulous. I want to get out of my friggin' apartment already. And you know what? Because I'm fully vaccinated, I hope that my brain and my heart all say the same thing, that, you know what? You're protected. You can't stay home the rest of your life. You just got to get out there and live again. And I think that's how I hope everybody has that same attitude, that once we all get vaccinated, everyone feels safe, and we're just going to all be out there again.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Well,
and I don't know if it's going to be so different, but I'm sure there's going to be some new things going on out in the world at large that we haven't thought about yet. But anyway, I don't want to repeat myself. I just want to, hope that at some point, all types of businesses, from art galleries to restaurants to major concert promotion, that we're all gonna, open up so that, the economy gets better and that we're just all out there again.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
It's like, I was just thinking, I'm sorry, that it's like the flu has never gone away.
Exactly.
But, we deal with it with antibiotics whenever, if you're like deathly ill or something. Like 3 years ago, I got pneumonia really bad. And it was so bad that I had to have IV antibiotics for like 3 weeks. But you know what? I knew that was going to help me. The pills were not helping me. I stayed home for those 3 weeks. And you know what? It was gone. Yep. So, we all stayed home this last year. Hopefully all of us are getting double vaccinated so that we're fully vaccinated, so we don't spread anything to anyone else, and vice versa, so that we can all go out and live again and be happy and be kind to one another in this brave new world that we're going to be moving into. It's all still a mystery.
It is.
But, I have faith and I have hope because I believe in humanity and I believe in people. And let's get on with it.
I agree.
Well said.
Well, we've come down to our allotted time and for this part 2, and we just can't thank you enough for your participation on both episodes.
It's been so much fun.
It has.
Oh, good. Okay, well, I loved doing the podcast again.
Yeah, I just like that you try to be an inspiration and you try to keep hope alive in people. I keep going. I like it.
Well, there is so much still, some negativity in the world.
Yeah.
I just never, ever want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And, I'm not like Pollyanna about everything, but I do believe that, I think I said this last time, being kind is like a domino effect. And if you do that, it really does spread. And, it just gives hope for the future. It gives hope for young people. It gives hope for humanity. And, we're going to be on this planet a long time. So we got to get along with each other. We got to love one another,
Agreed. I totally agree.
So there we go.
Well, this episode will be released in about 3 weeks. So when it's released, I'll send it to you immediately. But yeah, it's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure having you as our guest. We just can't thank you enough.
Oh, well, cool. Well, thank you very much for even asking. I appreciate that. Okay.
Hey, thank you so much.
Good night, and just stay in touch.
Yeah, be well.
We wish you continued success with your books.
Oh, good. Thank you so much.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts. Taste for
face the meat grinder.